Has Austin Riley finally figured out what went wrong the last 2 years? Let's talk about it. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today, your daily source for news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. You can find all of my written work, bravestoday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack, as this is both a podcast and a newsletter. We're proudly part of the Believe Podcast Network and presented to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app or go to FanDuel.com to get started. I want to talk about a possible rotation option somebody asked me about a little bit earlier this week in the wake of Spencer Schwellenbach going down and then Chris Bassett signing somewhere else. So we'll get to that. I want to talk about Ronald Acuña Jr. being 200% healthy. Not how that works, but I still want to talk about it. But before we do that, Austin Riley spoke to the media in Northport yesterday. And just for fidelity, because this keeps happening and things change from when I record this to when it airs, we are recording this at 8:15 a.m. Eastern Time on Friday. So if something in here ends up being outdated by the time the show drops at noon, that is why. I think by now a lot of us have seen the photos of Austin Riley. If you haven't, he has, I'm going to call it the beginnings of a beard, as somebody who has been bearded now almost consistently for a decade. I'm going to hesitate to call it a full beard, but he's getting there. He's clearly, easily getting there. And he's got the flow coming out the back. He's not quite Dansby Swanson levels, but he has been growing out the hair. He's been growing out the beard. And when they asked him about it in Northport, he said he needed a reset after last season, and fully agree. Because the Austin Riley we saw last year, and even the guy we saw in 2024, not the same guy that we got accustomed to seeing in 21 and 22 and 23. So let me real quick, what he did then, and then what he said yesterday about fixing some of the issues that came up. So 21 through 23 was really the big, coming out party for Austin Riley. He had 2 Silver Slugger awards during that span. He had 2 All-Star selections during that span and 3 MVP finishes. He got 7th place twice and 6th place once. In that 478 games, he averaged 159 games a season in that stretch. He hit .286 with a .354 on base and a .525 slug. 108 home runs, came out to 36 a season, 99 RBI. He stole 5 bags. So, he averaged just under 2 bags a season. But it's a 135 OPS plus. And honestly, a really big part of the reason why the 21, 22, 23 Braves were able to be so good. I don't think everybody realizes. In 2021, Austin Riley not only led the National League in games with 160, he hit 303. There's not many third basemen in baseball in a full season sample, 662 plate appearances, can hit 300 in a season. So he was absolutely fantastic. He was dynamic. He did a lot for the Braves. And in 21, he still had a little bit of time in left field. It wasn't a lot, mind you. I'm sorry. No, it was some right field, actually. I'm sorry. He played 2 innings in right field, but it was almost, he also made 3 starts at first, and all the rest of his time was at third base. And the last 2 seasons, he's not been the same guy from an offensive perspective. And we know there's been injuries involved in that. In 2024, he missed 2 weeks in May because of an intercostal muscle strain near his ribcage. And then his season ended in August with a fractured hand. He got hit by a pitch. Last year, He missed time in July with a lower abdominal strain. He came back, and then he re-injured it I think it was actually at the Speedway Classic. He had core surgery, sports hernia, whatever, ended the season. So he's not been on the field as much as that 3-year span that was so good. In the 2 seasons combined, Riley has 212 games. It was 110 in 2024 and 102 in 2025. He's hit 258 with a 316 on base and a 445 slug. So the OPS plus, still above average. It's a 111, but it's not anywhere near the 130 and change that he was in that hot stretch. He's been a different caliber of player. And in those 2 seasons combined, he has 35 home runs. It's an average of 17.5 per season. The bigger thing for me is the 162 game pace, meaning if he hadn't have got hurt and he maintained that level of performance, he would have finished with 26 home runs in each of those seasons. That was the 162 game pace for that 2-year stretch. So the power's been down. Because of that, the RBIs have been down. He totaled 110, so it was average of 55 each year, and a pace of 84. So not the same caliber of hitter. And Riley's aware of that. And we talked about that a little bit yesterday. And he said he spent some time this offseason with hitting coach Tim Hires. They did a lot of looking at video from 21 through 23 to see what Riley was doing differently then than he's doing now. And you have to understand, this is a little new for Riley. Not struggling. It's been 2 years of struggles now. But the summer of 2024, his personal hitting coach, Mike Brumley, was killed in an auto accident. Riley's been working with him since 2018, like in the minor leagues. He was a roving instructor in the Braves organization, and he eventually left the club after 2021, but they've been together. They've been working together ever since 2018. And so this is the first time he's really, last year he did some stuff with Mike Brumley's son, Logan. But this is like the first time when he's really had to rely on someone else to fix him. And this is common in baseball. Don't take this as an indictment of Tim Hires. A lot of MLB players use private coaches. Just like in football, college, pro, whatever, a lot of guys use their own quarterback coaches. Same idea. There's a benefit to the continuity of having somebody that knows you, knows your biomechanics and the way you do things. This is not an indictment of Tim Hires that Austin Riley had his own hitting coach. But Hires spent a lot of time this offseason working with Riley on figuring out what went wrong. Yesterday, talking to the media, Austin specifically mentioned a hip slide in his mechanics that was messing with his timing. And this, long story short, this is something where as you're taking your stride, your hips and your lower body kind of shift towards the pitcher early. What it means is you end up with your weight distributed on the front side of your body too early in the swing. And so it kind of restricts the rotation of your hips, cuts your power back. Your balance is not as good as it could be. And then your timing is off because you're not properly running through the entire kinetic chain to get force into the ball. So Austin specifically pointed out that Hires caught that. They've been working on that. And you can see some of that timing stuff come up like with off-speed pitches. 21 through 23, Riley was hitting over 300 on off-speed pitches. Last year, he hit 250. When you combine that with a lot of his trouble, like his recurring trouble he's had all in his career with sliders down and away, you could see how, hey, if you crater against off-speed stuff, and you already had a known weakness here for sliders, you can see how Riley's performance would struggle. So I'm hopeful that, hey, they identified this mechanical issue. Hopefully they fixed it, because this is probably the biggest thing that you need outside of health, is you need Austin Riley to get back to being Austin Riley if you want this offense to hit its potential. We're all talking right now about the pitching staff, right? Because of losing Schwellenbach and how to replace him and all of that. But having Austin Riley fully armed and operational here, to borrow the Death Star terminology, would be a huge boost to Atlanta's offense. So hopefully they figured that out, and hopefully we can see some of that on the field this year. In just a second, let's talk about Ronald Acuña Jr. He's 200% healthy, whatever that means. But what are the proper expectations for him this summer? We'll talk about that next, right here on Braves Today. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Fantrax. This is the best, absolute best fantasy baseball app on the market. They have by far the deepest player pool. Again, we in the Braves Today Discord, links in the episode description if you want to join. Lots of great conversation the last couple of days about pitching. We started a redraft league on Fantrax. We're going to draft the week of opening day. And the customization options were amazing. I could pick so many different things and adjust what we wanted our scoring categories to be. You can customize how the roster's set up, how many starts your starting pitchers are allowed to have in 1 week, all kind of crazy stuff like that. The player pool's incredibly deep, and what I love is if you forget to fix your lineup, it will notify you on your phone that, hey, you forgot to put this starting pitcher into today's lineup, or you have a position player in the lineup who's not in his team's lineup and you need to make a change. Love that feature. So if you want to join for free, fantrax.com/Braves today. It's FANTRAX.com/Braves today to sign up now. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby. I'm excited about a full season of Ronald Acuña Jr. I don't know if everybody realizes how good Ronald was last year. Overall, really, but especially before the calf injury. So on the season, Ronald played in, He played in 95 games. He was in there for just over half of a season. 3 WAR per Baseball Reference, hit .290 with a .935 OPS. It's a 163 OPS plus. 21 homers, 9 stolen bases. But if you go through late July, before he suffered the calf injury, trying to show off to his cousin Michael Garcia of the Royals in Kansas City, that 54-game stretch, Ronald hit .309 with a 1.12 OPS. He had 14 home runs, which is a 162-game pace of 42 homers. He only had 4 stolen bases in that stretch. It's a 162-game sample of pace of 12, but 40 homer bat with an OPS over 1,000 across that 54 games and 235 plate appearances. Obviously, he had the calf injury, and then since that happened, he came back, but he came back in mid-August, like the 15th or so, and he wasn't really the same guy. From there through the end of the year, he wasn't bad, mind you, but he hit .268 with a 839 OPS. He had 7 homers in 40 games. It's a pace of 28 for a full season. Not the same dude. The good news is he is fully healthy. He is not only fully healthy, he says he is 200% healthy, which, Ronald, love you, buddy. Not how that works, but that's fine. And so, one, you'll love to hear he's fully healthy. He's going to the WBC soon. He'll be playing for Venezuela. The last time he went to the WBC and played for Venezuela, he was in center field, which was interesting. But from there, he came back, had by far the lowest strikeout rate of his career. He cut his career strikeout rate in half in 2023 and won the MVP with a 40-70 season. He did say that he is not afraid to steal bases. He has no restrictions. He's going to be prolific on the base paths. Another reason why I think Atlanta's going to put him at leadoff versus batting him behind Jurickson Profar for RBI opportunities. But the FanDuel over-under of 28.5 home runs feels pretty low in light of the fact that he was on a 40-homer pace last year when he was trying to take it easy. I'm not saying he's a lock to hit 40 homers again, but he was on the 40-homer pace. So Ronald Acuña Jr., we might be a little excited about what he can do this season. And here's the thing. We knew that Ronald was going to be good, right? Austin Riley getting back to his form is still a bigger deal, I think, from an overall raising the floor of the offense perspective. But a full healthy season of Ronald with no restrictions is legitimately one of the most dangerous offensive threats in baseball. Walt Weiss was asked about it. Quote, Ronald looks great. Mentally and emotionally, he's in a really good place. He's missed some time the last few years. We all know he's a Hall of Fame talent, but you've got to do it for a while. And he's certainly capable of doing that. He's like a bull that's ready for the door to open. And Ronald said going to play in winter ball in Venezuela was a deliberate and intentional choice. Quote, I wanted to test my legs and feel that my knee was comfortable. That's what I did, and I feel great. And so part of me's wondering, a fully healthy Ronald, if he can be in the lineup all season, what is he going to do? He's only played 150 games twice since he debuted. 2019 and 2023. 2019, he had 41 homers, 37 stolen bases in 156 games. 2023, 41 homers, 73 stolen bases in 159 games. And in 23, he had a 1.12 OPS, which is almost identical to what he had last season before the calf injury. And now he's okay about stealing. He was asked about being, can he be the first player ever to get two 40-40 seasons? And to his credit, Ronald made a point to emphasize it was about the team and not him. Quote, I don't know about 40-40, but I just want to do my best to help my team win a lot of games and make the playoffs. And I do want to give Ronald some credit as well. He's been learning English for a long time. And off of the field, we've heard him use English for a while now. Talking with teammates, some of the North American guys who don't know a ton of Spanish and things like that. But he was always kind of hesitant to do his interviews in English. And that's a common thing. He did a little bit last year at spring training. He did this entire media availability in Spanish. In English. He did this entire media availability in English. So, credit to the guy for doing the work. I don't think a lot of us native English speakers realize, one, how hard this language is to learn, and two, how nerve-wracking it is to do an entire media availability in a second language. He's not naturally gifted with languages like Ozzy Albies is. Ozzy speaks 4 or 5 languages. He speaks English fluently. He speaks Spanish fluently. He speaks Dutch because that's a big thing in Curacao. And he speaks Papiamentu, which is a lesser-known Creole language that is also used in Curacao. So he speaks 4 languages fluently. Not everybody has multiple languages come to them as easily. So shout out to Ronald for being comfortable enough to do that. I think that's a big deal. And I do think that's something we need to acknowledge and give him his props for getting to the point where he's comfortable doing that. There's a lot of players who they may learn English, but they never get to the point where they're comfortable enough to take questions and answer questions in English. Shohei Ohtani knows a lot of English, but he still in his press conferences where he takes questions from reporters, he still uses a translator. So credit to Ronald Acuña Jr. for doing that work outside of baseball, right? Outside of playing the game, 102 games a year and all that, to learn English. I was asked about a possible option to reinforce the rotation in Zach Littell. Let's talk about if that would work next, right here on Braves Today. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Encase Cards, custom trading card manufacturer. I love these guys and what they do. So take your source photos. U Sports is the obvious application. Go to encasecards.com, ncasecards.com. You upload your photos. They have tons of customization options in their online website builder. You can add the text you want, name, position, team, whatever it might be. You can add holographic options. You can choose from the backgrounds, front and back. You design the entire card the way you want it. If you need help, they've got white glove service to help you out. Once you're happy with what the card looks like, you finalize it, you send it to the printers, they print it on high quality cardstock, they slab it, and they throw it into a plastic case, different color options, that doubles as a stand for your desk, your mantle, wherever. So, encasecards.com, ncasecards.com, promo code Braves Today gets you 20% off your order. Again, that's Encase Cards, ncasecards.com, promo code Braves Today. Final segment of Braves Today, Lindsay Crosby. Let's talk about Zach Littell, because Atlanta's rotation right now, you're in some sort of combination of Hurston Waldrop, Bryce Elder, Grant Holmes, Martin Perez for the last two rotation spots, right? Sale, Strider, Lopez. And the easy kind of default feels like it is Holmes and Elder in the rotation, with Waldrop starting in AAA, so you can moderate his innings early in the year and keep him fresh for the stretch run. Because I personally think Hurston Waldrop can be a playoff quality starter. Still has a little seasoning to do. We saw the Houston game late last year. One, he was a little gassed. Two, they really got after him when it came to early in the count, not letting him get ahead to try to neutralize the splitter, right? So, Waldrop still has some development to do. He's not a finished product. But if you can start him once a week in Gwinnett, even if it's for only a month or so, and you trim a start or two off of his full season, that helps the workload a little bit more for 2026 to hopefully have him healthy when you get to the postseason. But maybe Martin Perez looks like he's back enough where he can take a rotation spot and you can put Holmes in the bullpen. I do worry about the health of Grant Holmes, even though he told us the other day, I talked about this yesterday, that the actual injury he was dealing with last year was a flexor strain, and he thinks that UCL tear has always been there. So there you go. Or it's been there for a while, whatever, and he's pitched through it. But somebody asked me, would Zach Littell be an option for the Braves? So 2013 prep draftee by the Mariners in the 11th round. And he's bounced around a couple teams recently. He's been the last couple seasons with Tampa Bay, made 65 starts for them, 77 total appearances, 376 and 2/3 innings across 2 and change seasons, was traded to Cincinnati last year. I think it was a trade, and made his final 10 starts for Cincinnati. So he's a career 3.88 ERA guy. His fielding independent pitching's 4.43. So he's on the whole in his career, he's overperformed a little bit on some of his inputs. Zips isn't as high, all the projection systems really aren't as high on him as they were a Bassett, a Giolito, an Elder, a Perez, right? 4.68 ERA projection, FIP of 4.62. So they're thinking this is the year where his ERA finally catches up to his FIP. He's not every time, but he's pretty consistently overperformed his FIP. Like last year, 488 fielding independent pitching, which, reminder if you have forgotten this, fielding independent pitching is things the pitcher can directly control. Walks, strikeouts, home runs. It's not perfect, but it helps take out the influence of defense, right? If you give up weak contact and it's a little flare and it's just over the third baseman's head or something, you kind of did your job, right? The guy hit a 65 mile an hour lazy little fly ball and just nobody happened to catch it. It feels like you shouldn't be punished for that much. You gave up contact, but it was weak contact to a fielder, and they just didn't make a play. So that's the idea behind FIP. Again, not perfect, but it's sometimes better than just straight ERA. But like last year, he overperformed by a full run. Combined ERA between Tampa Bay and Cincinnati, 381, FIP of 488. And when you look at what he actually does, like under the hood, he is not quite all three fastballs. He's throwing a four-seamer and a sinker, which I think we all know what that means. Give the man a cutter. He needs to throw a cutter, right? But it's really kind of a kitchen sink thing, okay? 28% slider, 27% splitter, four-seamer 24% of the time. It's like 92 miles an hour. 16% sinker, 5% sweeper. So he's throwing 5 pitches. Lefties really kind of only see slider, splitter, four-seamer. Righties get 4 of the 5. They do get some sweepers. They get more sweepers there too, but like 20+% usage of 4 different pitches to righties. So a kitchen sink kind of guy. He doesn't get a lot of whiffs. He doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. He does get a lot of chase. Like 79th percentile last year in chase, 30% chase rate. But they're not missing the ball. The whiffs are still low. The strikeout rate is low. He also doesn't walk a lot of guys. 98th percentile, 4.2% walk rate. He's pitching to contact, and oftentimes the ball is out of the zone or heading out of the zone, and you don't get good contact on it. Like, you're not getting optimal contact on it because it's coming out of the zone, right? It's a splitter dropping below. It's a sweeper running off the plate, that kind of stuff. So there is risk here, clearly. I mean, he has been a consistent overperformer of his inputs. He's not throwing very hard. His expected ERA last year, same thing, 4.36. Half a run worse than his actual ERA. But there's a couple tweaks you can put in there. He's only 30 years old. He shouldn't be that expensive, given the fact that, one, he was making, $5.7 million last year with Tampa Bay, and 2, pitchers and catchers have already reported the first team workout, full squad workout, is Sunday. And he's not in camp. Oftentimes, these are the guys where you sometimes see the crazy deals and they sign for like $3 million or something. So I'm not opposed to bringing in Zach Littell. The other thing that you do have to be mindful of is he used to be a reliever. He's another reliever to starter conversion, right? Tampa Bay made the move with him. They got him in 2023. I think it was from Boston. And when they do that, I want to say they grabbed him off waivers in like May. They put him into the rotation and they converted him. He threw 156 in the third innings in 2024. He threw 186 and 2/3 last year. But with that relief to rotation conversion, he's dealt with injuries. And a lot of them are fatigue related, right? He had a shoulder issue in 2023. He had right shoulder fatigue in 2024, 15-day IL. And, I think he came back in like early September. Last year, for the most part, he was fine. He made just about all of his starts, Between the two teams, he made 32 starts. So it's not the history of health that Chris Bassitt had. It's not the lower ERA that you can, I guess you can't reasonably expect a lower ERA. And I'm always a little suspicious when Tampa Bay moves on from a pitcher, right? They're seemingly pretty decent at building pitchers. And so if they move on from a guy, you have to ask questions there. You look at the stuff plus, you're not that incredibly excited. The splitter's a 103. You love that. The four-seam fastball is a 78. The sinker is a 78. The slider's a 78. Just the stuff itself isn't really that good. But fantastic locations. He's not going to walk a lot of guys. Provided he can stay healthy, he's kind of what you need from a number 5 starter. He's not going to be as good as Chris Bassitt. I do think he also has room for improvement. He's not been starting full-time except for 2 seasons. And as a minor leaguer, they pulled the plug on him starting in like 2019. So you absolutely have more development that can be done. Now, how much of that can you do in season? If you bring him in now, how much of that can you do in season? I don't know. But I'm not opposed to the concept. I don't think it costs a lot of money. He has experience as a reliever. So if you need to use him in relief, he was throwing mid-90s. When he was a reliever, it was a four-seam slider splitter. He was throwing in the mid-90s. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world. He could be, I think, worst case scenario, he could be another Swiss Army knife guy for you. If you put Grant Holmes in the rotation, he can take Grant Holmes' place in the bullpen as a Swiss Army knife kind of guy. So I'm not opposed to it. You do have health concerns, but he is going to be a lot cheaper than the $18.5 million that Chris Bassitt got. And like I said yesterday, the issue for Atlanta wasn't not signing Chris Bassitt. The issue was having not signed a starting pitcher in free agency to be a starter since Charlie Morton. Think about it. The pitchers that Atlanta's added in free agency to be starters, they've not signed a major league starter to be a starter. They've signed relievers to convert to starting, like Ronaldo Lopez, like grabbing Grant Holmes on a minor league deal, Ray Kerr. They've traded for an injury-prone pitcher, and in this case, in Chris Sale, who won a Cy Young, absolutely worked out. But the Braves have not signed a free agent starting pitcher to be a starting pitcher since they added Charlie Morton. And I think you're at the point now where you see how it's caught up to Atlanta. If they can't get one of their prospects to step up and take a spot. We saw J.R. Ritchie do live ABs yesterday in spring. I think he recorded 1 out in the whole 4 or 5 batters faced. So feels like he's not quite ready. Oh, he walked Drake Baldwin. He gave a double to Ronald, a bloop single to Ozzie, and then got a ground out of Drake Baldwin. So he is probably going to be a later in the season kind of add there, right? If you're not going to get your prospects to the majors, and Schwellenbach came up, right? But if you're not going to get enough of your guys to the majors, you've got to sign guys. And Atlanta so far has been unwilling to sign starting pitchers to be starting pitchers. And we kind of see now it's caught up to them. Maybe they need to go grab Zach Littell and say, hey, be a starter. This has been Braves Today for Friday, February 13th. Do me a favor, please like the video, please subscribe, both here and bravestoday.com, free or paid. Those memberships help us out a ton. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.